In today's video, Democrat Jason Crow gets embarrassed during his interview on Fox News. Also, the president doubled down on his stance regarding H-1B visas, and a new approval rating regarding the president's foreign policy has reached a record high. We'll show you both sides to these stories, but let's start with what happened with Jason Crow on Fox News. Take a look.
Why did you participate in this video?
Martha, we're standing by our troops, our service members who are often put in very difficult positions, and Donald Trump has put them in very difficult positions and has alluded to putting them in even more difficult positions in the months and years ahead. So we are reminding folks about what the Uniform Code of Military Justice says, what the Constitution says, what the law of war says. You know, this is really no different than what I did with my infantry platoon in advance of deploying to Iraq in 2003. I trained these young soldiers on their obligation to comply with the law of war, to comply with the Constitution, and what is a lawful versus a unlawful order.
What law are you talking about that's being broken? And then you said that he's implying that he might do something that they wouldn't want to uphold or follow through with in the future. What are you talking about specifically?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Well, number one, the protests at Lafayette Square in the first Trump administration, where he said, "Can't you just shoot them? Can't you just shoot them in the legs or something?" That's his direct quote. And of course, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
That was not a military order. That was a comment.
Okay, so as much as I want to attack Jason Crow as the person, I won't. Let's just focus on his point that he's trying to make. This is in regards to the video that was posted where multiple members of Congress were pretty much telling soldiers in the military that it's okay to defy unlawful orders. And the crazy part about it is if the president shot a video like this, okay, they would be up in arms. This is a form of propaganda. Military personnel does not need videos from members in Congress telling them what a lawful order is or not. They have the chain of command to tell them. They get all the training you need to know what is right and wrong. What Jason Crow should be focused on is affordability. He should be focused on making the cost of living something that Gen Z could look forward to. But they're not doing that because they have Trump derangement syndrome.
When that's coming from the president of the United States to your generals, don't you think that's a request? That's
I'm asking specifically right now what you're talking about.
Yeah, number two, he's also threatened to send the military into Chicago and other cities to, quote, go to war with those cities. Right? That is a very, very disturbing thing. Number three, he's also alluded to sending troops to polling stations, which is actually a violation of U.S. law. U.S. criminal law prohibits troops from going to polling stations, and he's alluded to that. So those are just one of many examples.
You're talking about
Donald Trump
illusions. You're not talking about actual policy. You're not talking about things that are members of our service members who we revere and respect are actually being asked to do.
Yeah, see, that's my main issue with people who claim to be journalists and members of Congress, okay? I thought you guys are in the business of actually speaking about truth, things that are tangible, things that are objective truths that we can debate over, okay? No. What Democrats have been caught up in doing is forming this habit of always freaking out about something that might happen, that may happen, but hasn't happened. There have been no military personnel deployed to any polling station, okay? That's number one. Two, there have been no military personnel ordered to execute unlawful orders from the commander-in-chief. That hasn't happened, okay? Everything you see that the military is doing, whether you like it or not, does not violate the U.S. Constitution.
What
reminding them of their obligation
order from the commander-in-chief that we are asking our military to carry out are you objecting to? This is very, very vague. And it was so vague in this video. I don't think people could figure out what you guys were all talking about, honestly.
Martha, Donald Trump has made a series of very disturbing comments and suggestions that would violate U.S. law and put our military in terrible positions.
Again, we're getting nowhere because you're not talking about an order.
I don't want to wait until that happens to remind our troops of their obligation because then it'll be too late. We are standing by our troops and our amazing men and women in uniform to remind them
who sign up every day as you did to carry out the orders of the commander-in-chief. We are not engaged in new wars. We have no troops on the ground in Ukraine except some who were training pilot missions, not on any front lines of any kind. In the Caribbean right now, we've sent a carrier there. I thought these were the specific operations that are actually happening that you might be referring to.
I mean, clearly there's so much going on in our country And that's why I have to deliver this urgent reminder. The Medicare enrollment period is ending soon. This means you have until December 7th to pick a plan for 2026. It's no secret that Medicare enrollment process is confusing, and I think it's on purpose because brokers are looking to make more money, which means you could potentially be on the wrong plan. Question, wouldn't it make sense to speak to a trusted advisor today? That's why I recommend you call Chapter. They're the only advisors that will compare every nationwide plan to make sure that you choose the right one. And they are results driven. They save people $1,100 a year. If you look in the comments section, you'll see that people are already thanking me for directing them to Chapter. They will help you. And the best part is their service is completely free and it only takes 20 minutes. And by the way, if you're already on a Medicare plan, they can look at it and make sure that it's good. And if it's not, they'll help you switch. So don't gamble with your Medicare coverage today. Call Chapter at 323-431-5200. Understand it's peak season, so you're going to want to call them first thing in the morning. That number again is 323-431-5200. Speak to a trusted advisor today. Yeah, see, he's not going to do that, all right, because they're not focused on the facts. He's saying the president has made some disturbing comments that could be a violation of international law or the Constitution, but isn't a violation of law. You guys see the difference there? We got to exercise critical thinking here. And by the way, this is a great example of tribalism, folks. He is putting the tribal needs of their party ahead of principles. Principles would say that the military doesn't need to hear propaganda from members of Congress.
You know, you're talking to young members of the American military, and you're not telling them specifically what it is they should see as illegal. So you're putting ideas into their head that maybe they're being asked to do something illegal, and what we're seeing actually is recruitment rising and people wanting to join the military under the president.
Here's an interesting fact for you, Martha. Our men and women actually are very smart, very incredible men and women in our military. And
you don't have to tell me that.
Well, apparently I do.
No, you don't, sir. I have great respect for the United States military.
Well, you know, you don't think they can handle a reminder about federal law and the UCMJ is what I'm hearing.
Well, what I am hearing, and this is just the bottom line to it, military personnel are tired of politics. The last thing they need are videos from members of Congress being crammed down their throat about it's okay to defy unlawful orders. Okay, that is just ridiculous. It's a waste of energy, a waste of time, a waste of taxpayer money, in my opinion. Number two, military personnel just want to show up. They want to do their job. They want to go home to their families, and they want to be happy serving this country. And number three, more importantly, and I said it at the beginning, they continue to be focused on the wrong issues. Both sides, by the way. Okay, this is not a partisan take. Both sides are continuing to talk about stuff that has nothing to do with improving the quality of American lives every single day. All right, let's go to Stephen Miller. Here's his reaction.
Look, there is nothing graver that you could possibly say as a United States senator than encouraging, urging, directing members of the armed forces of the United States or the clandestine services of the United States to defy their president, defy their chain of command, defy their superiors. To say such a thing would require you to have and to present to the nation some extraordinary scandal beyond even our wildest imagination, which of course they don't have, because every single thing that this president has done has been not only lawful, but has been repairing and reversing the unlawful and unconstitutional behavior of the previous administration. But there's an even deeper issue here that we have to understand. The Democrat Party has reached a point of extremism where the only thing that they believe is legitimate are the things that keep them in power and that keep their policies in effect no matter the will of the public. So, for example, if President Trump orders an illegal alien deported, they would have their district court judges block that deportation. But if they're in power, what will they do? End the filibuster, stack the Supreme Court, appoint 10 radical loyalists.
All right, so let's just get to the bottom line to this entire story. Number one, it was an embarrassing situation for this Democrat, Jason Crow out of Colorado, to appear on Fox News and try to specify what unlawful order the president has issued. He couldn't do it. So it was an embarrassment, in my opinion. Number two, both sides are extreme at this point. We just saw what Republicans did last night. Instead of holding their own party accountable, particularly Corey Mills, who they refused to do so, by the way, they couldn't even hold Rep Plaskett accountable for texting with Jeffrey Epstein. In my opinion, both parties get an F. They both have become extreme because they are slave to their donors. That's why we need to continue to think for ourselves and also make ourselves aware. All right, so now we go to our next story. The president spoke at the U.S. Saudi Investment Forum today, spoke about H-1B visas, by the way, and AI and manufacturing jobs for the future. And I think it's very important to talk about something much more substantial, right? Well, let's get into it. Here's what he first said. Take a look.
This looks like it's going to be blowing it away, because when these plants, which are being built now, and many are going to be started very shortly, many, but when they open, we're going to see numbers the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And, you know, in some cases, you're building extremely complex plants. You're building plants to make computers and to make telephones, to make a lot of different things, missiles. But you're building plants that make things that are very, very detailed, and you have to have great knowledge. And you're coming here and you find, if we don't have people that did that before, we are allowing you, and I may take a little heat. I always take a little heat from my people, the people that love me and the people that I love. They happen to be toward the right of center, toward the right. Sometimes they're way right. But if you have to bring people to get those plants opened, we want you to do that, and we want those people to teach our people how to make computer chips and how to make other things. You can't come in, and I'm explaining, you can't come in, open up a massive computer chip factory for billions and billions of dollars like is being done in Arizona, and think you're going to hire people off an unemployment line to run it. They're going to have to bring thousands of people with them, and I'm going to welcome those people.
This is a political talking point from the president. He would rather say Americans can't be trained than just to admit that these companies want cheap labor. They don't want to spend 2 to 3 years to train up an American citizen. They know that the turnover rate is going to be lower because people who are on H-1B visas, they want to stick around as long as they practically can and then send the money back to their family. And 4, they don't want to raise wages. Okay, so that's just the reality of these entrepreneurs who own these big companies. So that's why the question is this really an American first policy? The answer is no, it isn't. It's a corporation first policy. If it was an American first policy, it would be like, I don't care how long it's going to take you guys to train up these people. Figure it out. What you're not going to do is bring over overseas talent. Just isn't going to happen. Figure it out, corporation. You got the money, you got the resources, and we do have the talent. The problem is these corporations are not interested in hiring American workers. They'd rather hire cheaper labor. That's just a fact of the matter.
I love my conservative friends. I love MAGA, but this is MAGA. And those people are going to teach our people how to make computer chips. And in a short period of time, our people are going to be doing great. And those people can go home where they probably always want to be. You know, when people are born someplace, they tend to want to go, and we have the greatest country in the world, but they want to go. But they're going to do. We had one case in Georgia where a battery factory, batteries are very dangerous to make. They're complex, much more complex than people understand. And they spent $1 billion to build a factory, and they were told to get out. And I said, stop it. Don't be stupid. And we worked it out. And now they're teaching our people how to do it. But they're going to have to spend, Jensen, I don't think you can open up a big plant with your friend from Taiwan where we're going to have 40 or 50% of the computer chip business I don't think you can do that with people that don't even know what a chip looks like. Do you agree with that? So somehow, you know, the people that are against this are really, really smart. They're unbelievable patriots, but they just don't understand. Our people have to be taught. This is something they've never done.
Okay, so the president is partially correct and also wrong at the same time. Let me explain. It is true that we do not have enough people to meet the demand, okay? There's no question about that. So then the question actually becomes, why is that? Well, according to this report from McKinsey.com, the U.S. domestic semiconductor manufacturing workforce has declined, down from 43% from its peak employment levels in the year of 2000. It's because they started offshoring these jobs, ladies and gentlemen. I said it earlier. These corporations would rather take the cheap labor than hire an American worker. So here is the solution. We need massive domestic recruitment up ASAP. We need an accelerated training program. Remove the fluff, okay? Not this 4-year degree nonsense. Make it accelerated. This stuff happens in the military every single day, by the way. And industry-funded apprenticeship programs. These companies need to put in the money to recruit American workers. This is America first. Okay, now having said that, let's go to this poll from CNN today, where the approval rating for the president regarding foreign policy is at a record high for any president during the 21st century. Take a look.
This is one of the areas in which Donald Trump is performing significantly better than he was in term one. One of his best issues relative to term one. What are we talking about? Approve of Trump on foreign policy at this point in term one. Look, Donald Trump was just at a 35% approval rating. Up like a rocket. We're talking about 43% now. That's an 8-point rise. On the net approval rating, we're talking about a double-digit rise. The American people like much more of what they're seeing from Donald Trump in foreign policy in term two than they did in term number one.
I think it's become abundantly clear that, their main priority coming in was to lock down the border, initiate mass deportation, plant the seeds for the domestic issue regarding the economy, because you're not going to change that overnight, and then go hard on foreign policy to make the world remember once again that America is not someone that you could just continue to, get away with and get us over on trade and things of that nature. And I'm pretty sure there are certain criticisms of his foreign policy, but there's no question it's much more effective than the last administration. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's what's been happening. Year one, foreign policy. Year two, domestic issues.
So how does President Trump compare to past presidents in their second term?
This to me is one of the most interesting data points, because normally when we look at these data points, we see that Trump is doing worse than other presidents. But on this one, he is doing significantly better, because take a look here. All right, 21st century foreign policy approval rating at this point in term two. George W. Bush was down at 36%. Barack Obama was at 37%. Look at this. Donald Trump actually leads the pack at 43%. Donald Trump has a higher foreign policy approval rating at this point in a second term than any other president who served their entire second term in the 21st century. This is something I think Donald Trump really likes to look at, because the bottom line is this: presidents like to build their legacies off of foreign policy. And at this particular point, the American people like much more of what Donald Trump's doing on foreign policy than either of the two other 21st century presidents who served served 2 terms.
All right. Now, in case you wanted to see Joe Biden's approval rating because he wasn't on the list, it came in at 35%. So he's not even at the top either. Bottom line is the president has been able to get results with his foreign policy, and now he's got to shift to getting results regarding the economy, because come or hell or high water, when that voter goes into the polling station to cast their ballot, the number one issue they're going to be thinking about are cost of living, the economy, wages, job creation, things of that nature. That's what's going to be on their mind. No question about it.
How voters feel about what the president did in Israel and Gaza.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why Donald Trump is significantly higher than either Obama or Bush is what happened with Donald Trump able to help formulate a peace deal between the Israelis and Hamas. What are we talking about? Net approval rating, Israel-Hamas conflict. Look at this. Joe Biden was 37 points below water by the end of his presidency. Way, 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 way down there. Look at Donald Trump. Actually in the positive area. Look at this. A +3 net approval rating. The American people liked what Trump was able to do between the Israelis and Hamas. And that, I think, is a large part of the reason why his foreign policy is at the apex compared to other two-term presidents this century.
You know what? That's where the president gets a lot of credit in my book. It's called results. Okay. And that's why the president gets a lot of credit in my book, because we may disagree on tactics, strategy, etc. But what we can't disagree on is someone seeking to provide solutions, someone taking action, someone getting results. And you can't argue against the president in his first 10 months that that's who he has been. Now, the weakness of it all is the people in Congress who are not obviously codifying his executive orders whatsoever. So a lot of it is really temporary, except the one big, beautiful bill. And clearly, if Democrats obviously get back in power, they're going to try to overturn that, no question. But I think the president gets credit on taking action. No question about it. Now, let's go to this next update. So Tim Burchett has introduced a resolution once again to prevent members of Congress from trading stocks. Here's what he had to say.
Thank you, Proud Paul. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Brian. Somebody asked me if I was going to wear my jacket up there, and I said, to quote the immortal words of Henry Winkler when he played the Fonz, I always rumble in this jacket, because that's what we're up against. This is a fist fight, folks. Now, first, I guess I need to thank Chairman Stiles and the committee, the House Administration Committee, for taking this up, because I realize what we're up against. I mean, this is, everybody talks about this place being a dadgum swamp. It's not a swamp. A swamp is something cool God created. It filters water. Animal life lives and flourishes around it. This is a sewer. This is created by man, and it needs to stop. We've, for years, Congress has been using hard-working American taxpayers' money to get rich. Dadgum, it's got to stop. America knows what the heck's going on. Everybody wants to knock Pelosi. Heck, she's not even in the top 10. Get on that Unusual Whales site. This is pathetic, folks. We all know what's going on. Congress knows what the hell's going on, and it needs to stop.
All right. If you guys have been following me for quite some time now, then you already know how I feel about all this. We talk about it almost every single day, that the root cause to our problems is Congress, and their root problem and why they are a problem is because of Citizens United. They're slave to their donors, special interest groups, foreign nations. And when you combine that with the fact that they make the laws, which has allowed them to trade stocks without being investigated or accused of insider trading, you got people who are walking conflicts of interest. That's just the bottom line to it. And nothing's going to change until we get the money out of politics. Now, I guess the question is, after he introduced this, what's the chances this is actually going to pass? Well, he had an answer for that. Take a look.
And I want to say something. I'm going to get these guys mad at me, but I really don't care, because they can't vote in my district. This thing ain't going to pass. If we're going to pass something in the House, and then guess what? The Senate will either, one, not take it up, or they'll come back in righteous indignation and say, oh, we need to make this stronger, something totally ridiculous, and they'll send it back to us. This is a scam that's being played on the American public, and it needs to stop. Let's quit with this nonsense. Let's give America a reason to trust Congress for once in our miserable lives. This is our chance to stand up and say, we hear what you're saying, America. We're going to fix this dadgum problem. But we probably won't do it. And I'll remain ticked off the rest of the day because of this. And it needs to stop. I want to thank all these folks, really. I joke around about it. You want to talk about something that, we all working together? Dadgummit, this is the issue. This is the issue where Democrats and Republicans. Dadgummit, if I can stand up here with these two. Yeah, these two. I mean, people back in East Tennessee are going, what in the heck's Burchett doing sitting next to Proud Paul, for goodness sakes? Well, I'm not going to beat her in her district, and she sure as heck ain't going to come down to East Tennessee and beat me. But this is an issue that America's united on. We ought to get behind this thing.
There's no question this is an issue that America is united on. I was saying it earlier during the live show. Across the entire political spectrum, I think there's one issue we can find common ground on. And if we're going to protest, if we're going to scream, if we're going to fight, it should be to get money out of politics. Let's march down to the Capitol as one, the people, and stand up to Congress. Because if we're going to fix this country, no matter who's in charge, you got to get the money out. There's no question about it. You have to get the money out. I mean, if you don't, they're not going to listen to us, okay? Because they're going to listen to where the money's coming from. That's how they survive. So I like this move from Tim Burchett, because you have to keep introducing these things to prove that you were a part of the solution. And we'll see how the Senate responds. Remember, Josh Hawley has a bill himself doing the same thing. And that hasn't passed either. So we'll see. Now, let's hear from you guys in the comment section below to these stories today, starting with Democrat Jason Crow out of Colorado, also a former Army Ranger who clearly got embarrassed on Fox News because he believes pushing propaganda to military service personnel is the right thing to do, even though he couldn't define what unlawful order that the president did issue to them. Let me know if you guys saw it the same way. The president continues to double down on H-1B visas. He continues to double down on the idea that we can't train our personnel in the right amount of time to fill these positions. I disagree. I think we can, and I think his administration should come out with a program to accelerate it all. Let me know if you guys agree with me on that. And then finally, what did you make of the foreign policy approval rating? Just give me all your thoughts and everything you got in the comment section below. Now, this takes us to our next video. As you guys heard me just talking about Congress, well, last night they pulled an insane stunt. Republicans sided with Democrats and refused to censure Rep Plaskett. This is the Democrat who was caught up in texting Jeffrey Epstein live during a congressional hearing. You guys missed out on that update and more. All you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.